Considered the pioneers of fusion rock in India. For over 2 decades now, Indian Ocean has been dishing out their brand of tunes, and audiences are still hungry for more. I am with this group at their practice place in Delhi to get a sample of their music and what goes into it. Let's listen in now. Indian Ocean, thank you very much for performing for Doordarshan. We'd want you to do a round of self-introductions.
Hi, my name is Himanshu Joshi and I sing for the band Indian Ocean.
My name is Rahul and I play bass guitar and I sing for Indian Ocean.
My name is Amir Khilam, I play the drums and I sing for the band Indian Ocean.
I'm Nikhil and I play this rather weird guitar with Indian Ocean.
This is Tuhin Chakravarti and I'm the tabla player Bagajnesh with the band.
So Rahul, what do you say would be a typical description of the Indian Ocean sound?
Okay, we've been looking for this description ourselves for a very long time. Because we realized early on that there is no sound that really describes. There is no word that describes us.
But if I were to ask you, what is it that you don't want in
The day we will discover, we will call you.
No, but what is it that you don't want in the sound?
Sufi. We don't say, I tell you what we don't have. We don't have, say, rap. We don't have what is nowadays called EDM, electronic dance music. So it's all live. There is no computer generated sound used in Indian Ocean's recordings so far. I'm not ruling out that we never use it. Because I think in film, when you do background, then you need that. But otherwise, just say I'm stage pe jab bajate hain, there is, it's just live playing.
Even the albums.
Yeah. You guys are known as the pioneers of fusion rock or folk rock. So if I were to ask you to break it down and say this part would be fusion or this part would be rock.
Again, something that people have been saying, fusion rock.
Yeah.
Folk fusion.
Yeah. So would you agree with this? Would you agree with this description or no?
Look, I don't care.
Okay, if you were to break it down, if you were to break down your music and say, okay, maybe this element is rock and maybe...
There is lots of elements, okay? There is definitely a very strong folk feel, which is probably why there is a folk feel, there is a use of scales which are Indian, classical Indian scales, very often.
For instance,
not like a rag, okay?
Yeah.
Because हम इतने पढ़े लिखे हैं नहीं कि हम राग बजा पाएं. मगर जो स्केल हम लोग यूज करते हैं, जैसे मान लीजिए ये आपको मेरे ख्याल इंडियन म्यूजिक में ही मिलेगा. मैंने और कहीं सुना नहीं है ये स्केल. और ये स्केल हमारे एक गाने में इस्तेमाल होता है, जिसका नाम क्या मालूम है. तो ऐसे स्केल्स, देन द रिदम पैटर्न्स,
राइट,
बहुत ही ज़्यादातर इंडियन रिदम पैटर्न्स होते हैं, और पर क्लासिकल नहीं कि सिर्फ कहरवा बजेगा तो कहरवा बजेगा, ये बजेगा, ऐसा नहीं है
बिल्कुल भी।
तो मगर ओवरऑल साउंड काफ़ी इंडियन लगता है, चाहे इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स हमारे बिल्कुल ही नॉन ट्रेडिशनल इंडियन इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स हो, एक्सेप्ट फॉर हम तबला बजाते हैं, मगर ये साइड में बहुत कुछ और बजाते हैं जो ट्रेडिशनल इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स नहीं कहा जाएगा, लाइक
तबले का डब्बा भी नहीं छोड़ते।
सही में उसका नाम हमने नया दिया, तुहौन।
अच्छा,
तो वो रहा एक। दूसरा वोकल्स में एक फोक फील आता है, और जोशी जी हमारे क्लासिकली ट्रेंड हैं,
अच्छा,
बहुत कम।
अच्छा।
पर कुछ तो जानता है, हमसे ज़्यादा जानता है।
तो आपका जो फोक एलिमेंट है वो आप अगर डेमोन्स्ट्रेट करके थोड़ा सा बता सकते हैं हमारे व्यूअर्स के लिए।
वो मारेगा,
मारेगा
जैसे हमारा नहीं है,
हाँ,
एक फोक गाना है जो कि मध्य प्रदेश के निमाड़ जिले से। सो आई लर्न द सॉन्ग वे बैक in 1991-92, and it's so I'll tell you what happens. I will sing the folk part, and then we'll play the non-folk part.
that will be nice.
So that
So that we can get an idea of how many things you mix together in your sound.
अब जब गिटार बजता है,
When the guitar came in, what would you say that part of the music is?
that is Indian Ocean. आप समझ रहे हैं कि शुरू में जब इंडियन ओशन शुरू हुआ था,
जी,
गिटार और तबला,
हाँ,
सुष्मित और अश्विन
Right.
दोनों जो अब इंडियन ओशन में
नहीं
नहीं
है,
हैं,
हाँ,
तो सुष्मित ने एक अपना गिटार प्लेइंग थोड़ा इंडियन क्लासिकल से इन्फ्लुएंस थोड़ा उसने भी सीखा नहीं था, सुन के स्केल्स पे बजाते हुए उसने अपना एक चीज़ बनाया, और उसके साथ अश्विन आया जो भी फॉर्मली ट्रेंड नहीं है मगर तबला बजाता था। तो उन दोनों ने वो तबला के जो बीट साइकिल्स होते हैं उसके अंदर सुष्मित के कॉम्पोजिशंस को फिट किया। पहले इनफैक्ट ड्रमर था नहीं, तो अश्विन बैठ के तबले और साइड में एक स्नेयर और एक सिंबल और ये सब इस्तेमाल करते थे, तो बहुत ही शुरू से एक्सपेरिमेंटल था।
हाँ, हाँ।
अब वो साउंड फिर धीरे धीरे इवॉल्व हुआ, उसमें वोकल्स आए, और वोकल्स जो आए वो अश्विन बहुत अच्छा फोक गाता था, उसकी आवाज़ भी बहुत ही फोक आवाज़ थी, और अपने आप बिना किसी प्लान के it evolved in a certain direction, which today is again evolving, because after all there is no Shashwat, there is no Ashwin,
Yeah.
and Nikhil Rao, who's coming as the guitar player, has brought in a lot of other elements into the music. So it keeps changing, but you can still recognize it as Indian Ocean. It's so difficult to give a name, because still there is a name. Somebody else who has not heard the music can never recognize what it is. So you have to hear our music and give yourself.
I think everybody keeps hearing your music and is still hungry for the next album. So what is coming up next?
Next is US tour.
No, that might be the tour, but we are talking about the music.
Okay, so we are hopefully working on our next album.
Okay.
We have 3 compositions in place, 2 of which have been partly recorded, but this time again in collaboration with 2 fantastic musicians. पंडित विक्कू विनायक राम जी ने एक गाने पे, इनफैक्ट एक कबीर के भजन पे
अच्छा।
उन्होंने हमारे साथ कटम बजाया है।
तो
आप
कबीर
समझ-
के भजन जो है आपने गाए?
नहीं, राहुल ने गाए हैं,
अच्छा।
और मैं बैकअप वोकल्स में हूँ,
अच्छा।
और जो बीच के जितने भी पोर्शंस हैं, जो जितने भी गिटार के पीसेस हैं वो निखिल ने बनाए हैं। सो it's still an evolving process. And we have recorded a basic track, and we are going to fill it in. And we don't know what direction it's going to take. The final जो रूपरेखा बनेगी वो अभी हमको पता नहीं.
The sound of Indian Ocean, as you said, is layered. So, can we get an idea of the kind of layering that happens? Right.
ठीक है, फिर ये घुसे धके चिदा इसको और ये पीछे से ये कर रहे हैं. फिर जब गिटार घुसता है एक और लेयर घुसता है और धीरे धीरे ऐसे बिल्डअप होता है जो आप इंडिविजुअल एलिमेंट्स को भूल जाते हैं. वो चलते रहता है. By the time is this singing starts.
Right.
You've forgotten how the song began.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how this layering thing, we like to do this layering thing. और काफ़ी ऐसे म्यूज़िक फॉर्म्स हैं जहाँ ये होता है. ऑब्वियसली हर कोई भी बॉलीवुड गाने में लेयरिंग होती है. मगर बड़ा क्लासिक और बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग जो सब कॉम्प्लेक्स लगता है पर है एक्चुअली इंडिविजुअल एलिमेंट सिंपल है. रेगे को अगर आप ब्रेकअप करेंगे तो उसमें एक एक इंडिविजुअल चीज़ काफ़ी सिंपल है, मगर जो पूरा बन के निकलता है, जो पक के निकलता है, सब एक साथ ज्वाइन करते हैं, वो एक कॉम्प्लेक्स सा हो जाता है. सो आई थिंक पार्टली इंडियन ओशन का म्यूजिक ऐसा ही है कि शायद कोई इंडिविजुअल इतना खतरनाक कॉम्प्लेक्स कुछ नहीं बजा रहा है, मगर मिलके जो निकलता है. हाँ.
So, you performed Rode for us. What is the story behind Rode?
1993 में गुजरात के गांव में था, भील गांव, और वहाँ पे पूरी रात नाचना गाना हुआ. अगले दिन हम लोग कहीं जा रहे थे जीप में, तो एक लड़की जो वहाँ थी वो अपने ससुराल से आई हुई घर, वापस जा रही थी ससुराल, तो उसने हमसे एक लिफ्ट ले लिया. तो उससे मैंने पूछा कि यार ये जो तुमने कल गाया था वो मेरे को सिखा दो. तो उसने सिखा दिया मुझे. अच्छा. और वो मेरे दिमाग में 20 साल से घूम रहा था, और इंडियन ओशन सोच रहा था कुछ करें.
How was the original?
So original is this.
It's very interesting.
Erode rode base muka base bosine beleveriya bire. Erode rode base muka base bosine beleveriya bire. ये हो मेरे दिमाग में सीने beleveriya वो जो it's a very unusual combination of phonetics of syllables. तो उसको फिर हमने इसमें बनाया. Erode rode rode base muka base bosine beleveriya.
Okay.
But it retains a folk feel.
For this song Rode, we needed an instrument called cajon. But since we are a traveling band और एक एक्स्ट्रा इंस्ट्रूमेंट के साथ ट्रैवल करना थोड़ा इशू हो जाता है, तब मेरे दिमाग में आया कि ये तबले का केस है, इसमें अगर मैं थोड़ा घुंघरू और ये लगा के मैं बजाता हूँ तो काफ़ी सिमिलर साउंड आ जाता है. और एक दिन प्रैक्टिस में मैंने बोला, पूरे बैंड को ये आइडिया बहुत पसंद आया, तो तब से ये ऐसे ही चल रहा है. जैसे साउंड काफ़ी सिमिलर है काहुन से. घुंघरू हटा के एक बार करके देखते हैं.
Nikhil, you're going to tell us your input in the sound that makes Indian Ocean.
Okay, so we were just like we were talking about the song Rode and the Indian languages that it is in. But for me, the attitude of the song, though the theme is displacement, but it has a little bit of anger in it also, and so some elements of rock also lend a piece like.
Oh,
So,
lovely.
so I mean, it sounds very rock to me, but it works in the context of the song. And in Indian Ocean, there is a lot of freedom to do, whatever. There's no yes or no, or this won't work, that won't work. I mean, at least not in theory. If
Right.
it doesn't work in practice, that's when we, accept or reject an idea. But other than that, I'm very interested in Indian music, in Indian classical music, Hindustani and Carnatic, and I try to incorporate a few of those elements into my playing wherever I can.
Amit, you're known to innovate with rhythms. I wanted you to, for the sake of our audience, show us certain Indian rhythm patterns that you incorporate in your work, vis-a-vis the standard format that a lot of drummers and rhythm people would do.
Well, actually, it is not that we only incorporate Indian rhythms, and we play a lot of everything.
Okay.
But since a lot of our songs are based, they sound like Indian songs. They sound like they're coming from Indian folk music.
Right.
So my attempt is always to keep it simple and to let the song and the melody rule,
Okay.
so as to say, and not to become so much like a drummer who's trying to fill up mostly, because this is not an Indian instrument. So the idea was to try and play it as lightly, or as to try and make it as Indian as possible.
Okay.
And so basically try and play as much as like a dholak player or a tabla player would play certain parts. And I think that's where it is. It's just to try and keep it very simple and not overcomplicate things in life. If you see most drummers when they play standard 4x4 would play something like this. Mostly this is the most basic one. But if you see, the Indian rhythm cycles have a little bit more. They are a little bit more wavy in there. जैसे आप ढोलक या तबला है, so we try and incorporate this kind of beat structure in the song, so that it falls in sync with the basic melody that we have, more like it. ऐसा नहीं है कि we don't play the other kind of stuff. We also do that. But many of our songs naturally lend themselves to this kind of rhythm. So it is best not to fight it and try and force a Western beat on top. You can do it once or twice, but not for always.
Right.
3x4 maybe mostly they play, or they play but so जैसे हमारा, we have a song called झीनी रे झीनी जदरिया झीनी रे झीनी. So a lot of drummers tend to play it like this.
Yeah.
But
How would you play it?
it's very simple. I just play it like a tabla player basically. So
let's hear
झीनी रे झीनी चदरिया pak tum tak. So it's basically just trying being like a tabla dholak player and not just
But with a Western
yeah,
instrument.
but with a Western instrument. Similarly, actually the same holds true for all our instrument players. Rahul doesn't play bass guitar like a standard bass guitar player. Nikhil doesn't play guitar like just a guitarist. So he will have different roles. Sometimes he will try and think, Arey, I want to play like a sarod, and let's see what kind of a feel I can generate. So for all of us it is true actually.
Okay. Yesterday we were there at your practice place, and today we are now in Amit's house. Wanted to know a little bit about your individual journeys with the band. So Amit, you've been here, among the three of you, you've been here longest. So what was your experience in the beginning when you joined?
My experience, अरे अभी तो याद भी नहीं है. It's been a long time.
But I'm sure there must have been some interesting thing that happened at that time, or it happened very, very gradually and organically.
Actually, yes, everything happened very gradually, organically. The music kept evolving, and we used to practice a lot. So the one thing that I think has changed from back then to now is the amount of time we used to practice. And now we do a lot more shows, so the amount of times that we practice has come down. Even though I must say, ever since Nikhil has joined, the last 2 years we've started practicing a lot more, and now I'm seeing finally almost the same levels of practice that we used to do when we had started out earlier.
Well, what made you decide to do music full time?
Man ki baat.
No, at that time, how was it? What were your choices, and what made you finally
honestly, in my mind, I don't think I had another choice. I wanted to just do this.
I see, okay.
I did my college from Kirodimal College, but I do remember even when I was in first year college, somewhere around that time, I think I had made up my mind that I think I will do music only. What form I will do it in, finally where I will go, whether I will only do music in a band or whether I will become a solo musician, I didn't know exactly then. But I had made up my mind that I will do music only.
And this was
in 94.
This was in 94, by which time you hadn't really formally trained for it. This is something that you've taught yourself.
I hadn't no, I haven't taken any serious formal training from anybody, apart from learning some Hindi film tunes on the guitar for a month or so. But yeah, there was no formal training, and I used to play in the school band. So I used to play guitar back then, and then drums later in school band. So I think it was a natural progression from there. I joined college and joined a couple of bands immediately upon joining college.
Okay. So basically, in your case, there wasn't really a choice you had to make about whether to take music as a career or something else.
Actually, it was the other way, right? In my mind, my choice was to actually seriously let go of every other choice.
Okay, yeah.
I was a very fairly good student. I won't say like a topper, but I was amongst the top 5-6 students, and I was a very good student, and everybody wanted ki I should study more and I should become engineer or something like that. So, but I then switched to commerce so that I would get more time to do music, because commerce is a lot easier to do. I'm sorry, it is a lot easier to do.
Well, now people need to have the highest numbers to get into commerce.
I don't know why they need the numbers. You just need a common sense to do all of this. So, I remember, so the choices in front of me were to study. I remember I was doing CA foundation in college first year. A lot of things are happening. So my choice was actually to start eliminating all of those options one by one, so that I don't fall for the trap of doing studies and then taking a job again. So I think my choice was the other side, not making choice for music. Yes.
So which means your parents and family were also supportive later on? Or?
Highly. No, they were. I think initially they were also shocked कि they will only do music and he will not do anything else. But they have never been non-supportive. They might have had questions, but I think I might have answered them well enough for them not to be too anxious. I'm sure they were anxious, but they never showed it in any negative manner. In fact, they were very positive about the whole thing, and I think they were willing to see me take my own decision and bear reward or failure, whatever may happen. So it was fine.
You said you joined in 94.
Yes.
So it's been 21 years now. What would you say have been the highest points of the band?
Baap re baap. Highest points of the band. I won't be able to answer this question because I don't tend to look at it as highest points. I mean, yes, there might be some
I'm not
markers.
asking for the lowest point.
They were, no, I mean, it's the same way because we don't look at it as higher or lowest points. There might be some markers that the outside world perceives and attaches to us. Like if some people, if you ask them, they'll say the release of the album Kandisa, then Black Friday. So they tend to give you markers according to your
Yeah, which is
your
why I'm
music that
asking
you're-
you about your personal high.
I think the personal high was trying to perform certain songs very well. So there was, let's say, to me, a personal high was when I finally figured what to play in Kandisa.
Okay. Which was?
Which is because I was trying to play some other drum beat to the song, and when we had finally made the initial bit and then taken the Aramaic song, and we were trying to adapt it. I was trying to play something else altogether, and you know that whole thing about being a musician is how you can outsmart yourself and your next musician
Right.
by playing something better.
Yeah.
But we sometimes lose the simplicity of all of it. And one day at a concert, I realized what to play. So to me, that is actually a great
Yeah,
high.
yeah,
So
yeah.
to me, that was a bigger high than anything else. But if you carry on doing this for long enough, and if you anyway have a kind of music that is different from the rest of the world, I'm sure what you see as success will follow at certain points. But I think you should have internal markers about when you played something, when you could compose something nicer, or when you could deal nicely with your bandmates. So actually, the other side of life is more important than just what we see as success in music.
Okay. Himanshu, what about you?
ये सैटरडे को नॉन वेज नहीं खाता
और बाकी दिन?
दबा के खाता जी बताइए
What about you? How was your first introduction into the band?
See, my first introduction to the band came at the time which was very trying for the band itself, because Oshim had fallen ill, and band was trying to come to terms with that. The shows were there, and they had tried out some other voices earlier to fill in for that time when Oshim was in the hospital and was hopefully getting better. I was asked by Sushmit to come in and jam with the band and see whether I gel with the band and whether it works. So I asked him, because I was tied up during that time, so I said that whatever
You were
published,
tied up
unpublished,
with some other work.
work, as well as I was not well at around that time.
I see.
So, and for me also, it was the time when, in case it will continue for long, then I had to take a decision how to balance out my work that I was doing earlier,
Which is what?
which is making films. I am a filmmaker by profession. I have a company that I run. I do a lot of corporate films and I do documentaries. So that aside, I asked Sushmit to send whatever material that he can send me, and so that I can just go over it. And I sat for about 12, 13 days and I analyzed all the songs. I wrote them down in terms of when the guitar piece will come in, what is the rhythm pattern. So I had my cheat sheet ready, Swar vibhajan bhi kiya tha kuch cheezon ko. And when I went to practice with the band, I was ready. And I jammed with them and it worked. And I knew Rahul from college days, where I'm a year senior to him. But I knew him because we used to take part in the similar competitions all across. And I met Amit at that particular point of time, and somehow it gelled. And the idea was that I'll fill in for the time when Oshim would get better.
Okay.
Which could be 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 8 months. I don't know. I mean, it could have lasted. Unfortunately, he died, and then we had another meeting to say that how do you want to do it? Because how do you balance it out? I said, I'll try and do it. And touch wood, I've been doing it, and I've been with the band ever since. It's been a great journey. Because
So how do you balance filmmaking and music?
it's very tough because I have
Because I think you all practice on a regular basis.
I
for,
practice on a regular basis, but I run my office in the morning and then I go for practice. And when the time when the band takes a break, that is the time when I work on my films. It's been an interesting journey, and एक भड़ास थी अंदर की गाने की, वो निकलती है यहाँ पे.
Nikhil, you've been an engineer. You've trained as an engineer,
Yes.
and then I think you were in Singapore doing a PhD. Somewhere I read that you had never thought of becoming a musician, and then finally now you're with the band. Huh?
Yeah.
So what is the story there?
Oh, that pretty much is the story, because I mean I've been playing music. I mean I picked up the guitar when I was about 15, 16, and
What made you pick up the guitar, if I may ask?
my brother actually started playing guitar, and so there was a guitar lying around, and he would go to have some guitar lessons, and I wanted to play because I wanted to obviously be better than him, and so that happened, and then I put myself through college and Naukri and everything. But I spent a lot of time with music because I was very interested in it, but I wasn't really sure कि कैसा होगा, how difficult, because quite simply because nobody in my family had done anything other than engineering and the conventional jobs. And so I hadn't grown up around many musicians, or so I never knew much about that life. And at some point I was spending 2-3 hours, 4 hours, whatever time I could on music, trying to
Okay.
improve and get better.
But that
And-
was just without any motive, without any
Yes,
purpose.
there was no
Okay,
motive.
huh.
I mean, the thrill really was, whatever I hear, if I can, recreate that, or, copy a lick, or, play a song that I
Right.
like. That was it. Then briefly I was in a band in college, but that was very, just, bunch of friends, just having fun.
You used to practice on your own for about 2-3 hours.
Yeah, so I did that, and I mean, था एक wishful thinking type का था that it'll be awesome if I get to do this, every waking hours, and somebody pays me for it, and then that'll be fine. I won't refuse that. And so then I worked for a few years. Then I decided to study a little bit more, and I moved to Singapore. I joined university, and the story with Indian. Our manager Dhruv says that I was flipping burgers.
We
in
all say
Singapore.
that.
Yes, he alleges that is the true story.
Actually, it is flicking burgers.
Indian Ocean, I'd known of ever since I was in college, and they were a very popular band, and I was in Gujarat, and they'd come for to play concerts. I would go and watch them, and I really liked the music because it was, at least for me, an Indian rock band which wasn't trying to sound Western, which wasn't stuck in
Right.
wasting their time covering Led Zeppelin or Deep Purple. They really had something original to say, and that made an impression on me.
But just tell me something. By the time you decided to be part of Indian Ocean, by then there were other bands also which were trying to sound Indian yet have a rock influence, right?
Yes, there were a lot of, in fact, even now there are so many bands.
He didn't get a phone call from any of them.
I was waiting for something.
But
I'm
sorry.
going to ask you something soon after this.
But sorry, I mean, you were saying something about it?
Yeah. No, so you were saying that you liked Indian Ocean because it was a band which was not trying to sound like Led Zeppelin, maybe.
Yeah, so I mean, in my awareness, because iske pehle, when I was in school, there was this Pakistani band Junoon, which also made a very big influence on me, and they were playing Western instruments with the tabla. But it seemed like they had their own, music, and they were doing it, sort of being Asian, or whatever you want to call it, without any apology. And I found that in Indian Ocean as well. So I, bought all their CDs and learnt all their, songs, and I'd done all of that.
How did you connect with them?
Oh,
That's it.
thanks to my brother Anurag Rao. So Anurag was doing something else, and then he quit his job and he started working with the band, with assisting their manager Dhruv.
Okay.
And that had happened about the same time when I'd moved to Singapore. And so he would call me and say that, I'm actually hanging out with these guys and they're awesome. And so I said, okay, when I come to India, when I come to Delhi, I'll come and meet them. And I met them. I think this was December 2010. And Sushmit was part of the band still. There was Himanshu, there was Tuhin. And this was just, I think, a year after, Ashim had passed away. And met them and spent an afternoon with them, played a little bit, and they were very nice and supportive and said, we like how you play and you should do. In fact, particularly Sushmit, he was really nice to me, and said that you should develop this Indian thing on the guitar and all of that. And I went back to Singapore and went on. And when it so happened that Sushmit had decided to leave, then they had come to Singapore for a concert in November 2013, and I was just about done with my course, and they asked me to join the band, and which was completely out of the blue because I had no inkling that that would happen. So I finished my course, moved back, we practiced for a few months, and everything really worked out, at least for me.
So Amit, what made you guys decide, okay, we want Nikhil in the band?
We're still figuring that out. They're still trying to answer that.
असली कहानी वो है कि हम सिंगापुर में हमको भूख लगी थी तो हम एक स्टॉल में देखा कि एक बेचारा लड़का एक बर्गर बना रहा है तो हमको लगा कि यार इसमें कुछ पोटेंशियल दिखा हमको बर्गर फ्लिप करा ऐसे कुछ हुआ।
हाँ वैसे एक विषय जो
हाँ
क्या मुझे फेमस स्टोरी नहीं है, वो रेलवे स्टेशन से अमिताभ वापस जा रहे थे, उनको किसी ने पकड़ लिया।
हाँ वही वाला।
अच्छा नहीं, वो तो नकली स्टोरी है। नो बट द ट्रू स्टोरी।
What made you choose him over so many others?
I don't think there are so many others, to be honest. We've always wanted to have somebody, at least I was very sure that we want to work with somebody even if he's not like a ready guitar player who can play everything under the sun and the moon and who's very good, fast, technically great and brilliant. But we want somebody who at least has a style of his own, or at least is developing a style of his own and has a sound of his own. So usme I don't think we had too many options ourselves, but I think because Anurag was working with us and I mean he was on the radar always ever since we had seen him. So I must honestly admit that when he had come to Delhi the first time, tab se he was doing the rounds of at least my mind ki if something like this would ever to happen, then who would replace Shushmit? Maybe him, because by then he would have also played a few more years and become slightly better, and he did want to make his own style, which was I think why there are other very good guitar players in India, and which we all actually quite like and regard, have high regard of, but we still wanted somebody who would play like what he does. He has an Indianness in his style of playing, which he's not very shy of bringing out, and whereas a lot of other guitar players tend to play according to, अरे इसमें ना reggae chord बजा तो मैं reggae style बजा देता हूँ, ये कर देता हूँ, वो कर देता हूँ. So idea was not to have a guitar player. Idea was to have a musician composer who would then think of the song and not just him or his own talent.
Yours is an all-male band. This is an obvious question. Why isn't there a female musician with you all? As yet, it's been so long.
There was one earlier apparently when even I wasn't in the band, which was before 94. I think 92 mein this girl called Savan who used to play keyboards. I think that time when the band was being formed, everybody was looking at different options, different musicians and different instruments also. Nobody was very sure what the band is actually or what the band's format will be, sound kya rahega. Nobody was sure, so everybody was experimenting. That time there was Savan Datta who used to play keyboard with us for a little while, and I think then she left, and I don't think it is still very easy for a girl to be part of a music band. That's the harsh reality, even though it's changing and there are so many more women.
Why is it not easy?
So many women who are coming into music and doing, I now see I think a couple of girl drummers, bass players and this, but it's still not easy, you know. It's to hang out every day and night. When you're a musician, then you know you go anytime in the morning and then you come back late at night. Sometimes you travel so many days. So I think slowly as times are changing in India, things will change, and maybe that's why we don't have enough girl musicians to choose from. I think this is probably just because there aren't enough girl musicians to choose from. I mean, we don't have anything against them.
You know, we are comfortable working as an all-male band. We're very comfortable with each other, and the band is doing fairly all right.
Yeah, of course it's doing all right.
We haven't really thought about it.
म्यूजिकल रीजन अगर कोई ढूंढना चाहे, बाल की खाल निकालनी चाहे, तो हम लोग जब सुष्मित बैंड में थे, गिटार प्लेयर थे, वो 1 या 2 स्केल में ही बजाते थे सारे गाने, और बाकी किसी स्केल में बजाते ही नहीं थे. So because of that, a lot of girls would not be able to sing. Suppose we had to choose a female singer, that was almost out of the, that was not going to ever happen, because girls wouldn't sing at that pitch and scale. So
No, but now there are bands which have both men and women.
yeah, now there are. You're putting the seed in our heads.
अगर हो सके तो अब कोई शम्मा जलाइए, अगर हो सके तो अब कोई शम्मा जलाइए, इस तारे सियासत का अंधेरा मिटाइए, इस तारे सियासत का अंधेरा मिटाइए.
We've done almost 1,000 concerts. And, I mean, we, not they. They have probably done 1,000 concerts. No, not him. But
I've done about 150,
which is not bad.
Yeah.
So,
With the band.
With the band.
Okay.
he's played very few concerts without us. Maybe look at less than 10. You know? So I'm actually quite amazed that this level of guitar player, without stage experience, has managed to catch on so fast. It's quite something. But concerts में ना सबसे ज़्यादा मजा आता है मुझे तो. Frankly, I enjoy concerts way more than I enjoy recording. Really, I find recording a very boring thing. Concerts में जो
Means you're getting bored even now.
yeah. Like if I go into a studio and have this thing going tack, tish, tish, tish inside my ear, it's not a particularly great feeling. And in fact, it's probably reflected in that Indian Ocean live shows sound much more interesting than Indian Ocean albums in my head.
So doing music for ourselves.
Ourselves,
For me, you know, ever since I've been with the band, I've had an opportunity to do an album, which was just the band and featuring some collaborators, Tandanu, and we did Masan, which was a film. So it was a two different experiences. I mean, primarily when you do the album, we are making music for ourselves, which things that we find interesting, and we are the final arbiter of what goes on the album.
And the duration.
Oh yeah, and with films you have to work with a brief, and songs are written according to the script and the characters. So for Masan, for instance, we did just 3 songs, but it took a lot longer than Tandanu, the whole 7 songs did, because there was a lot of back and forth. They would send some lyrics, and we would compose a tune. Nobody in Indian Ocean writes lyrics. They never have. I mean, we've always
In fact, that is the question.
outsourced that job. And so we, so many times it happened that we would do a tune, they didn't like it, or we had to tweak it, then go back again. So that happened over a few months, whereas that didn't happen with Tandanu. So very different. But the recording process and the way we make music, which is spending time and jamming and working with lyrics, that process essentially is the same, and that I think has always been the same for the band. But it makes a very big difference when there's somebody else who's going to judge the music and its suitability for their film.
What's been your experience now?
Film versus...
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree pretty much with what he says. I will just say that the way we are different from a lot of Bollywood music composers is that usually there is one composer who makes a tune.
Right.
And then there is an arranger who does everything else.
So how does it work for you?
We are musicians, we are composers, we are arrangers, we are everything.
So when you are doing music for a film,
Same.
all of you work together at the same time on it?
Yeah, like in Masan, for example, Amit had come up with this tune, Man Kasturi, But the way it's finally put together is all of us sitting together and playing it and saying ये try कर, वो try कर, ये काम कर रहा है, ये काम नहीं कर रहा है, ये बजा के देखते हैं, वो बजा के देखते हैं, and finally it becomes a joint effort, even though the original idea might belong to one of us or two of us. I actually tend to forget where the idea came from, because after that you make the song your own. It's not somebody else's baby. It's your own baby. Whether the original idea is Amit's or Himanshu's or Nikhil's or mine or Twins, it doesn't matter. Once it's there, it becomes ours.
Very briefly, we discussed if we should, hire an arranger for Masan, because we didn't know. I mean, at least I didn't know, what music should sound like on screen. But then I think very quickly we agreed that, whatever the sound of the band, that should reflect on the film. Because, I mean, if we make a tune and get somebody from, Bombay to arrange the song, it might not sound, very different from what is already happening. So we decided to, just whatever instruments we are capable of playing, is what is there on the album.
I'll give you an analogy if that helps. When you hear a Bollywood concert, when Bollywood singers come in and sing public concerts, the band sounds the same. चाहे A गा रहा हो, चाहे B गा रहा हो, चाहे C गा रहा हो, चाहे D गा रहा हो, गा रही हो, जो भी है, because उनका एक स्टाइल है. चाहे वो, they don't change that style, they just change the content of the song. Whereas when we play, we don't sound anything like Bollywood at all because of our instrumentation and our way of dealing with the song. So I think that carries over into our approach to making music or films also. That it has to sound like us, not like somebody else.
So Rahul, you guys were earlier at Khajur Road, and what made you people shift here to Ghitorni?
Oh, they sold the house.
Okay.
Simple. We would have never shifted.
Okay.
We were there for years. And it's weird. Khajur Road was like...
You have an album by that name also.
That was our tribute to the house.
Okay.
And to Oshim, because, Oshim died and a year later a little bit we left there. We've recorded all of Kandisa. Not recorded but composed. Kandisa, Genie, Black Friday and 16/330. So 4 out of 7 Indian Ocean albums have been made in Khajur Road. So very important for our life as a band. 14 years we were there. From I think 97 March.
आपका कभी 9 to 5 job नहीं था? You've been in St. Stephen's, you've been in IIT Kanpur, and then you were in Cornell. You did chemistry, you did environmental
chemistry in
IIT.
Stephens and IIT.
Yeah.
And I did
then
environmental toxicology.
So was it all along that you were involved with music?
I started playing in school when I was in class 9, and I used to play in a band in school. So 9, 10. By the time I was in class 11, I had started playing with college bands.
Okay.
And then in college, I actually was playing with a semi-professional band. So 3 years in college, I played with a band.
And you're totally self-taught?
Pretty much. Actually, I'm taught by my friends. That's supposed to be one of the best ways to learn. Because your friends encourage you, plus they show off to you. So that showing off में सीखना बहुत हो जाता है. Plus एक friendly competition रहता है.
Right.
और उस competition में लड़का कहीं ज़्यादा सीखता है rather than class में अगर कोई आपको बता रहा हो. And you can have a really steep learning curve this way. I did really a lot of my learning, even about environmental issues, has been with friends rather than in classes and things. But chemistry, I don't think friends can sit and discuss.
But you were also involved with the Narmada Bachao Andolan. When was it very clear that you were going to do only music and not get into anything else?
Okay, so I think after 1995, in 1993 I went to jail.
What for?
Narmada Andolan.
Okay.
Anybody who is part of any Andolan in this country will go to jail at some point, by and large. So I figured, so I was in jail. I had an interesting time in jail. Interesting because आदिवासी जेल था. तो आदिवासी जेल में मतलब क्या होता है कि रात को गाना बजाना होता है.
अच्छा, तो आपको काफी मटेरियल मिल गया वहीं.
नहीं, मजा भी तो आया ना. सोचो ना कि जेल में गाना बजाना हो रहा है। और लकीली क्योंकि मैं सिर्फ 8 दिन था जेल में, बाकी 2-3 दिन लॉकअप में था। और फिर मैं निकला, बेल पे निकला, वो केस ख़त्म होते होते 10 साल लगे। After 10 years they said this is a meaningless case and throw it out. But it's very easy to put people in and then torment them for a long time, which is why we have such a huge backlog of cases in our country. Anyway, by 95, I was, at that time my wife, she was also with me in the Andolan, and then she got a job in Delhi. So once she got a job, I wanted to spend more time in Delhi. Meanwhile, Indian Ocean मैं तब से कर रहा था, और धीरे धीरे इंडियन ओशन के भी शोज़ ज़्यादा आने लग गए, और तो मेरा झुकाव इस तरफ ज़्यादा।
There have been changes in the band in terms of the members. What is it that you feel has added value to the band in the last few years with new faces? How do you think the music has changed, if at all, and in what way?
See, when Oshim died, first he fell sick.
Yes.
And we thought he'll recover. We had no idea the extent of the stroke and how bad it's going to be. See, Oshim used to sing and play tabla. And we had shows immediately. So somebody came in quickly and filled up. We did intense 4 days of, हमारे पास ना पीएफ होता है ना पेंशन होता है, तो जब वो आदमी बीमार पड़ा है, उसकी फैमिली का पैसा कहाँ से आएगा? उसके ट्रीटमेंट के पैसे कहाँ से आएंगे? अगर हमने इंडियन ओशन रोक दिया होता उस टाइम पे, तो उसकी फैमिली क्या करती? बिकॉज पार्टली इट वाज लाइक, यू नो, वी हैव प्लेड विद समबडी फॉर, आप किसी के साथ इतने साल बजाए हो। इन 1990, मैं तो 91 से 2009 18 साल ओशिम के साथ रहा हूँ, और हमारा बैंड ऐसा था कि हम तो दूसरे तबले वाले को सुनते में, हम अपनी दुनिया में रहते हैं एक्चुअली। हम दूसरे बैंड्स क्या कर रहे हैं क्या नहीं कर रहे हैं उसमें हमारा इंटरेस्ट ही नहीं है। दोस्ती है, मगर हम वो कंपटीशन वाले हिसाब से घुसते ही नहीं इस मामले में। तो फिर आया एक जो कोई किसी ने गाया, और हम 2-3 लड़के आए, एंड सी यू कैन नॉट रिप्लेस। सो वी रियलाइज देन कि रिप्लेसमेंट नहीं है, जो भी आएगा अपने दिमाग के साथ आएगा। इनिशियली उनको हमारे पुराने गाने सीखने पड़ेंगे, पर पुराने गानों में अगर वो कुछ और करना चाहे तो उसके लिए हम ये नहीं कहते कि जो उसने गाया वही गा, जो उसने बजाया वही बजा, बिकॉज फिर इंडिविजुअल का अस्तित्व का मतलब नहीं है। There was one guy who came to play and sing, and one guy who came to play, and then Himanshu came in December. I think Tuhin played his first show in December of 2009.
So what was the clincher for Tuhin to join?
It's not a good reason.
It's not a?
It's not a great. See, Tuhin is very flexible as a musician. So he was happy to play tabla, he's happy to play dholak, he's happy to play the tuhon, he's happy to play the djembe, and he's interested in the drums. He's very happy to experiment. He's a percussionist, not a tabla player only. Whereas the person we had before that only wanted to play tabla and was a classically trained tabla person who had a bit of घमंड, जो होता है ना क्लासिकल वालों के पास, कि मैं ना तबले पे ही सब कुछ कर दूंगा। अरे तबले पे अगर सब कुछ होता तो बाकी इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स हैं क्यों दुनिया में? बाकी इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स के बाकी साउंड है ना, शायद उस गाने के लिए तबला अप्रोप्रिएट नहीं है, तो तुम क्या करोगे? बैठे रहोगे बुत की तरह, कुछ तो बजाओगे। जबकि तुहिन तो चाहता है कि अलग अलग इंस्ट्रूमेंट बजाए, वो गोंगा बजाता है, तो ही कैन प्ले एनीथिंग। सो विच वाज द क्लिंचर फॉर हिम, प्लस ही वाज यंग, एंथुसियास्टिक एंड very happy to be part of Indian Ocean. He played his first show was fantastic. His second show was not that great. His third show was fantastic. It took him a while because it's very difficult to suddenly walk into a band that's been around for 20 years, जहाँ अमित और मैं ना इशारे से ही समझ जाते हैं कि क्या होना है। टाइम लगता है ना, इतना आसान नहीं है इसको कैचअप करना। और हमारे बैंड में रिक्वायरमेंट है कि सब लोग कंट्रीब्यूट करेंगे। यू कांट जस्ट कम एंड प्ले योर पार्ट एंड गो अवे, अदरवाइज व्हाई आर यू इन द बैंड?
So Tuhin, what's your recollection of the first time you were with Indian Ocean?
डरा हुआ था, बहुत डरा हुआ था पहले तो। हाँ, मेरे पास फ़ोन जिस दिन आया था कि आज इंडियन ओशन के साथ प्रैक्टिस के लिए पहुंचना है, वो भी बड़ा मज़ेदार किस्सा था। उस दिन मेरा इंटरनेट डाउन था मैं यूट्यूब पे गाने नहीं सुन सकता। मेरे को लगा कम से कम कुछ गाने सुन के मैं जाऊँ। मैं बाइक लेके दौड़ा, मुखर्जी नगर में एक प्लानट एम है, वहाँ पे एक सरदार जी बैठे हुए थे। मैंने उनको जाके बोला भैया, पहले ढूंढा मिला नहीं। मैंने बोला यार वो इंडियन ओशन की एल्बम होगी? कहता और तो देख लो पंजाबी सेक्शन में अगर पड़ा होगा तो। ओह इसका मतलब यहाँ नहीं मिलेगा। तो वापस आया मैं, फिर आके मैंने फ़ोन किया कि मैं चाह रहा था कि कुछ गाने सुन के आ जाऊँ बट मेरे को मिल नहीं रहे, तो मैं क्या कल आऊँ? डोंट वरी आ जा, देखते हैं।
That was Rahul saying that.
That was Dhruv saying that.
Okay.
Don't worry about it, you just come. गया, पहले दिन प्रैक्टिस हुई, बड़ा मज़ा आया। तो मेरे को राहुल दा ने एक लाइव DVD दी और शायद तीसरे दिन शो था और बोला कि इसमें से जितने भी गाने तू कर सकता है कर ले, और हम शो में उतने ही गाने करेंगे केवल। बड़े चौड़े में मैंने बोला अरे 14 गाने, हाँ 3 दिन में तो सारे हो जाएंगे। अगले दिन सुबह 6 बजे उठ के मैं स्कूल पहुंचा हूँ जहाँ नौकरी कर रहा था, और वहाँ से
क्या कर रहे थे आप स्कूल में?
स्कूल में म्यूजिक टीचर था मैं।
अच्छा।
और वहाँ से छुट्टी के बाद डायरेक्ट प्रैक्टिस में पहुँचा, मेरे पास सुनने का टाइम ही नहीं है। खैर दूसरे दिन भी किसी तरह निकाल लिया, अब तीसरे दिन शो है। तो अब प्रैक्टिस से जब वापस आया तो रात को CD लगाई, DVD लगाया और सो गया। कि बीच बीच में उठ के उसको दोबारा शुरू से प्ले कर देता था, सो जाता था। करके अगले दिन सुबह उठ के स्कूल गया, फिर भागा वहाँ से हाफ डे लेके जाके कुर्ता भी खरीदना है अभी शो के लिए। जाके फैब इंडिया ढूंढा, जाके कुर्ता खरीदा, शाम को शो किया, बड़ा मज़ा आया, अच्छा गया। तो एक और इतना बड़ा बैंड जो मैं बताया कि डरा हुआ था, किसी ने मुझे लगने नहीं दिया कि यार तू कि हाँ थोड़ा औकात में रहो टाइप, किसी ने नहीं बोला मेरे को। हाँ बड़ा मज़ा आया, तो आई वॉज लुकिंग फॉरवर्ड टू इट। करके फिर 2 महीने बाद एक शो बजाया, करके फिर महीने भर बाद एक शो बजाया। उसके बाद से कि अब तू आ जा, एक्चुअली जब बोला तू आ जा, उसके बाद ना मेरे कई सारे शोज खराब गए डर के मारे कि यार अब ना मेरे कंधे पे आ गया मामला। तो धीरे धीरे करते 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 करते
हम ही आलम हम ही कज़ा हैं, हम ही आलम हम ही कज़ा हैं, हम ही गर्दिश की वजह हैं, हम ही गर्दिश की वजह हैं, हम